Guys, happy Monday. I was just singing my warm-up vocal song for the episode, and Trent came in and he was like singing with me, and I was like, leave me. This is part of my, I'm not just singing for the fun. It's part of my little vocal stim that I need to do before I get into the podcast. I was singing, if you must know, Celine Dion, when you want it the most. Anyway, he came in and joined. I will say happy anniversary, wedding anniversary to me and Trent today, the 9th of March. I don't know if I'll talk about that. We'll see what we get to in this episode. And also, as I'm recording it, it's International Women's Day. And I know majority of my listeners are women. All of the work I do in my life is dedicated to women. I love women. I love all of you. Happy, happy, happy International Women's Day. I hope you feel proud of the woman that you are because I am proud of you. And I'm proud of the women that we are raising. And I am proud of everything that's coming for us collectively because women are going to be at the top. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. It's like, but it's coming. Women rising. We're in a women rising era. And I know it doesn't feel like that. And as a collective for centuries, we have been. Oh, do you know what? I saw this cool thing online where it was like, we haven't been a patriarchal society forever. Like, remember back in those lifetimes we lived when it was like ancient Roman times and we were like the women side by side with the kings, like the queens ruled as much as the kings. Like, it's coming back. It's coming back. It might take a few more centuries though. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is happy International Women's Day. Oh, guys, how have you been the last week? Because I've not been okay. I've actually not been okay. Yeah, I'm going to talk about all of that today. I received my official diagnostic report on Wednesday, which is so textbook for me. If you know me, you know that when it comes to any kind of big astrological transit, be it an eclipse, a moon, a whatever, I'm textbooked. Just look at what I'm going through, and you'll all be going through it. And I'm probably just the exaggerated version. I think it's because I'm extra sensitive, and it's just so textbook. This eclipse, I was very curious about for me, the one that we had on Tuesday because it was obviously the Virgo eclipse, and I have a Virgo Mars, Venus, and Mercury. It was basically landing between all of those planets. It was nestled in nicely there, and textbook right on time. Like maybe, I don't know, 10 hours after the eclipse reached its peak, I received my autism diagnosis and the full report in my email. And I do want to say before I get into the week that's been, thank you all so much for the outpouring of love I've received in my DMs and even my email. I and my friends, I've had some really great friends checking in. I underestimated how intense they call it a regression. A friend of mine has reframed it and we're calling it a progression. We're moving through it on the other side and we're progressing. But basically, the technical term is that you can go through a regression of symptoms when it comes to receiving a diagnosis, especially so late in life. And I'd known this because I had rabbit holed autism for 2 years. And which is a very autistic thing to do, I now know, when we rabbit hole and research and consume and learn. I'm obsessive in that way. And as you can see in my first two books, it was all research that I compiled in my life and then reported on basically. Love that for me. So I'd done the research and I'd known about this. Like I knew about this a year ago. If I get diagnosed, there's a regression that might come. And I did have a couple of people reach out and forewarn me, including my doctor, who said, I'm here to talk out symptoms, which I actually haven't reached out to her. I probably should. Maybe I'll just send her this podcast episode off the back of it. But I thought because I knew about the potential of there being a regression that I would skip that part. Yeah, no, no. So what happened was before I received the report Monday and Tuesday, was kind of feeling the liberation of, and you guys heard me on the podcast last week. I was speaking very confidently about it. I was feeling the liberation. I was feeling like finally I have this this thing that explains why I am the way I am and why I've been the way I am my entire life and the uniqueness of this, trait or disability. I don't like using that word, but I was feeling good. Like I was feeling like a 9 out of 10, an 8 out of 10. And then it got to Wednesday and I felt physically the symptoms of the eclipse. I felt the intensity of the eclipse because 50% of my personal planets are in Virgo. And so that Virgo energy was very, very heightened. And I can only explain it like I felt it in my body. So I actually had Cass over. She came over for a little play date and I said to her, I'm so sorry. I actually just have to lie on the ground. Like I can't explain this. I was lying on our concrete floor. I couldn't get up. I was feeling histamine. I was feeling lightheaded. I was feeling inflamed. I was just feeling really not right. And it was kind of good that she was there just in case, because I'm like, oh, I would usually just be at home alone with my little girl. But I think what I was actually moving through was picking up on the report coming through because when I spent a couple of hours lying on the ground talking to Cass, like it was fucking weird. And then I got up and checked my emails. I'm like, oh my God, the report's here. And it was really good to open it and read it with someone there. I think that that was orchestrated, unintentionally orchestrated really perfectly because I was actually able to read it and be witnessed in what came up for me as I read through. And as I said, I think it turned out to be about 7 or 8 pages of notes from the session. And I, oh, very confronting. Um, I can't exactly put my finger on what about it. Sorry. This has been me every day uh, since I received the report. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed, not at all. I feel extra sensitive, which is the big irony of all of this is a diagnosis like autism, neurodivergence, is that our systems are extra sensitive. And there have been some areas of my life where that extra sensitive nature has been to my benefit. So, me and the work I do, especially as a psychic, that sensitivity has been a superpower for me and it makes me money and it is my job and it's my way of connecting with all of you on platforms like this. So it's been almost like something I can leverage for clout. Like that level of sensitivity has been a really, really great thing. But on the other end, the polarity of my sensitivity is I am a very sensitive person when it comes to emotion. And it's like when I was reading through the report, any kind of protective wall I had put up through years and years since childhood, really, around the sensitivities that I learned were not normal or not allowed in my case, especially as a child from my dad, they've almost like come crumbling down. And so, something for me is like when I'm angry, I cry. And it's always been this frustrating thing where it's like, I'm angry, but like I can't express the anger. It comes through like what I'm feeling now, which is like emotion, like tears, crying. And I was wronged for that at a very early age. And I can see the pattern of it now. My mum was also wronged for it. And I used to be told by my dad, like, you're just like your mother, you're so sensitive. Like, why are you crying? And so over the years and into adulthood, this part of me I have diminished. And I think you guys hear it a bit because I feel safe on this platform where I'm not masking when I show up on Soul Talk. I'm actually not masking. I'm being very honest because I feel safe because it's just me talking. I don't feel like I'm in anyone else's energy. I'm just putting it out. You guys can listen and take of it what you will. There are times I cry. There are times don't cry. So I feel like you guys get like a behind the scenes, which is so ironic because I'm broadcasting it publicly, but it's a unique position whereas in my like personal life, social circles with Trenny, if I would feel that kind of like, oh my God, that embarrassment around I'm about to cry and this doesn't feel like the right place to cry, then I just suppress. So the report hit on a lot. Um, Firstly, it shows that where I sit on the percentile of masking, and if you guys remember, masking is basically putting on a front to appear not the way you are, like inside or what you're feeling. It's like it's overcorrecting, and feeling like if I show up fully as I am right now, I'm not going to be loved or accepted, and so I'm going to put on a mask, basically. And I do feel like if you are a neurodivergent person with strong Libra placements and strong Gemini placements, then you would likely be more high masking because the masking comes naturally to us. So as a Libra moon and a Gemini rising, it makes sense that I am on the 70% percentile of masking autistic women. So for all of the autistic women in the world, I sit on the 70 percentile at 70%. That is extremely high masking, which is why it's so interesting. I've had many of you really resonate with last week's episode and ask about, who I got the diagnosis with. I have placed her details in the Soulies thread in the channel on Instagram, so that's all there. And then I feel that there would be just as many of you going, this doesn't add up, this doesn't make sense. And it's because what you've experienced of me, other than on this show, has been the part of me that's incredibly high masking. So that was the first thing. And then the report goes through all of my senses. So literally sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, and which ones I sit higher on the spectrum. And I saw this really great reel years ago, like probably last year or the year before, when I was looking into autism as a spectrum. And people consider it just one spectrum, like a line, and you sit on the line somewhere. And this is where people say, well, everyone's on the spectrum somewhere. And I've got to repeat that. It's quite offensive to say that, because and I don't think it's intentionally offensive, but I will say it's diminishing the lived experience of people who actually do have this disorder. And it doesn't mean that you might not get overstimulated by things, or you're extra sensitive in situations. That's fine. But a lot of the content I've been consuming is like everyone wants to be autistic until they realize the struggles that come with it. And this is what I want to talk about, both ends, right? But anyway, I saw this reel and it was showing that it's not just one line as a spectrum and you sit between this line, right? Imagine all of the different dials on an oven, and some of those dials are turned up really high and some of them are lower. There's multiple spectrums, and each of them are your triggers, the senses, which ones you react to more, which ones you react to less, how you mask, where you do mask more than other places. Like there are certain places I am very high masking versus other places like behind closed doors where I feel safe to just fully unmask, and certain friendships where I am fully unmasked. And so they're not as taxing as when I am masking, right? And so the report goes through the senses, and this is why I do think if you are considering that you could potentially be neurodivergent, don't just say, I've listened to Holly's podcast, I relate, so I'm autistic. Like that's actually not how it works. Get the diagnosis, because your way of your neurodivergence is going to be very different to mine. So for me, my triggers are sound and smell. And this came through in the report. Is like when there's layered sound, when there's multiple sounds on at once, when I'm already overstimulated, and then a smell comes through that feels triggering to me, I could go into an autistic meltdown. And this is what's actually been happening for me since I read the report. It's like the report gave me permission to fully unmask at home safely and feel the overstimulation that is constant in my days, and where I get really thrown, and then the emotional sensitivity comes up. And rather than me feeling guilty for it, although the guilt has definitely been there, I'm giving myself permission to lean all the way into what I'm actually experiencing in each moment. And there's been a lot of judgment of myself. I've had, they're called autistic meltdowns. They kind of appear like panic attacks or like emotional breaks, similar to what I'm in right now, but like times 10, where you can't function. Like in an autistic meltdown, I wouldn't be able to be having this podcast interview, right? But I've had one every day since I received the report, because the blindfolds have kind of come off, or the blinkers or the parameters I put around my experience living in this extra sensitive way. And so one of the meltdowns I had the other night when Trent got home from work was literally, I was so worried that he won't want to be with me anymore, which is ridiculous because I'm not actually changed. And he's the person that I can be unmasked with most of the time. And, you know, today's our wedding anniversary. We've been married 8 years. We've been together. We got married at our 10 years. So we've been together 18 years. But it was a real trigger that spiraled me into a meltdown because I do rely on Trent so much to hold the fort when I'm in a burnout or when I'm run down or when I feel overstimulated. Or something that actually came through in the report for me is firm touch, which these are all things that I've known about my nervous system. And I'll talk about that in a moment, but it's just great to have it clarified. Like, something that regulates me personally is very, very firm touch. If you come and lightly tickle my back, I will flinch. I'll be like, please don't touch me like that. Please don't. But if you wrap me in a really, really tight hug, especially when I'm like this, I calm down, I can breathe. I've done this my whole relationship with Trent without even realizing that I was actually regulating myself. If I feel stress or overwhelm, I would literally say, can you lie on me and put your full body weight on top of me? Like, basically him being my weighted blanket. So a lot of this actually we have figured out ourselves, which is great. And I know, like he said, he laughed. He was like, "Oh, this has been you the whole time. It's just now we understand why and what we can do to make kind of like episodes few and far between, but where I'm not masking through them, if that makes sense." So really the report is a report into how to navigate an extra sensitive nervous system, right? That's what this diagnosis is. It's I have a unique nervous system that is extra sensitive. Now, I received a message, one of many beautiful DMs that I received over the last week. And I do apologize if I haven't replied to you, but there has just been so much, and I really do need to enforce boundaries with my energy and feel less apologetic about that, just because now I understand capacity at a deeper level. But one of the DMs was from a speech pathologist listener who also has neurodivergence. And she said to me, it's funny, when I was reading Saying Yes to You, my second book that came out almost a year ago, she said, I wondered if you realized that majority of what you shared were nervous system regulation tools for neurodivergent people. And I didn't know that, because if you've read the book, you know I just used myself as a crash test dummy. And so I included what worked for me. I didn't know when I wrote that book that I had autism. Yet every single thing that I share in that book are the nervous system strategies. Sorry if you saw that on the YouTube, that was gross. I'm not even going to say what just happened, but that was gross. The nervous system strategies for neurodivergent nervous systems. Now, neurotypical people will also obviously have a very positive experience with these nervous system strategies. But for neurodivergent types, there hasn't been enough research done into particular ways to regulate a neurodivergent nervous system. It's basically limited to the research that I did for Saying Yes to You, which is kind of cool and kind of mind blowing. And part of me wants to reach out to my publisher and be like, should we repackage this book for neurodivergence? Because majority of what was in my report, while it was very unique to my senses of smell and sound, there was also some firm touch, obviously. It's everything I already know. It's everything I already teach. It's everything I already do. But it's further amplified for me to go, no, like the amplification has been on the stress of how important it is for a nervous system like mine, where things like EFT, marked improvement in neurodivergent meltdown and overwhelm and overstimulation. Like EFT is one of the biggest things. I spend a whole segment in my book on EFT, right? When I spoke to Emma Mumford, She even said to me, she's like, Hole, you and I talk about the nervous system a lot before we even realized we were both autistic. She's like, the things that we teach are actually, that's about as far as it goes when it comes to nervous system regulation tools for neurodivergence. So it's been good for me to go, okay, none of this is actually news to me. None of this is like stuff I'm not already doing. It's just further enforced why it's so important for someone like me and why my life actually feels so great when I'm doing these things. And that was another spiral for me. I've had many, as I said, it's been 4 days in a row. I'm hoping today's not a fifth day. Like, yes, I've been emotional today, but I've not had a meltdown. But it's been exhausting. I couldn't get out of bed yesterday afternoon. Like I've been not being able to send voice notes to my friends, which I usually do. Like I've had to reschedule some readings and I've just not been okay. And I've lost my train of thought on that. I'm sure I'll circle back to it, but that's actually really annoying. It's fine. I'll park it. Something else. I'm going to listen back to this podcast and be like, oh my God, that's what I was going to talk about. It's fine. I'm sure I'll get to it if it was important. I heard somewhere actually, when you lose a train of thought, trust it. It's your guides interfering and saying, don't speak about that just now. So that's a cool thing for us all to know. Something else in the report that actually made me really emotional was there's this autistic trait that is rule following, and rules feel safe and like I know what to do when I'm following a rule. Like it gives me structure. And that's all I've always been a good girl in lots of ways. And part of that has been, following the rules. And something that was written in the report was me following rules to my own detriment. So, like a rule that I did follow to my own detriment was the rule that I created, which was breast is best. And that it was my autistic mind that put myself through so much distress trying to follow the rule of breast is best, which at its worst, I was piercing my nipples with sterile needles up to 30 times a day. And it makes me sad because I wonder if I knew this about myself before I became a mother, would things have been different? Would I have offered myself more compassion? Would I have not tried to push through so much? Would my birth have gone differently? Um, Pain threshold is another really big one in autistic minds. As you guys know, I had an active posterior labor for 40 plus hours. And that was round the clock contractions minute to minute. I didn't get a break for 40 hours. If my private midwives knew I was autistic, I wonder if they would have flagged a transfer much earlier for me because my pain threshold was non-existent. I was violently projectile vomiting by the end of my labor because my body was screaming at me to stop. But I could deal with the pain, so I did. And so there's been a lot of grief. There's been a lot of sadness. There's been me obviously looking back on my entire life in all of the ways that I have diminished my sensitivity, felt embarrassed or too much. And that was a big thing. So yesterday, I took my little girl to dancing. And when she went in, I burst into tears. I've been extra sensitive. I know I keep saying it because it's just what's been happening for me. And Trent was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I just want her to fit in. I just want her to fit in." And I realized that all of those fears were about me fitting in and masking and needing to belong and not to be crying too much or seen as the person who's super sensitive or super smart. And when I got home from dance yesterday, like my little girl got in the car and you get to watch the last 10 minutes of the dance class. And again, I had to put my sunnies on. I was bawling my eyes out. We get in the car and she's like, "Mommy, why are you crying?" I'm like, "I can't explain it, my darling. I'm just like really feeling so much love for you. I'm so proud of you." And I cried the whole way home, 30-minute drive home. Got into bed and I was just not okay. I was so depleted. And that's something else, like the burnout is real when you are neurodivergent. Any outing, and this is something that was in the report actually that was fascinating, is if I have a client session, a social catch up, an event like I did on Thursday, anything whether I enjoy it or not, I need to have decompression time. And my decompression time is going to be different to a different neurodivergent person's decompression time. But for me, that decompression time is alone, in silence, lying down in darkness with a weighted blanket on. Like, I need to get me a weighted blanket and noise canceling headphones. Like, that's where I'm at. And that's very hard to do when you're a mother and you're a stay-at-home mother, obviously. So then if I can't decompress right after the thing, I need to wait till Trent gets home from work so I can then go and decompress. So the scheduling of the decompression time is a vital strategy for autistic people, which has actually been really, like, again, affirming for me, because I've always known I get more depleted and more burned out than the average person. And like, social outings can feel, while enjoyable, absolutely, because I am like that introverted extrovert. I do like to be around people. I do like to be social. I do like to go to live shows. I do like to go and dance with my friend. Like, I haven't done that in a long time, but I like to do those things. I like the event I went to for the Pilates class on Thursday. I like to do those things. But I have always known, like, why does it take me so much longer than the average person to get back up from that? Like, it burns me out. And it's because it doesn't matter whether it's a fun thing, whether it's an hour, whether it's 5 hours, whether it's a one-on-one social time, whether it's a client, whatever it is energy expenditure to a nervous system that has limited bandwidth and that needs decompression time. And if you don't build in decompression time, what it shares in my report is it can actually appear in your symptoms 24 to 72 hours later. So even if you're feeling good that whole next day and the next day after that, you can actually have a crash and burn on the third day. And that could look like a meltdown, which is overstimulation, feeling overwhelmed, crying, feeling heavily emotional, not being able to function, like losing mental faculty and not being able to do simple things. Or it can look like and this is where I've been more over the past couple of years, but I feel like I'm leaning toward the meltdown. It's the shutdown. And that's when you just go mute. You can't talk. No one can talk to you. No one can listen to you. I disappear. So all of this is giving me really good understanding, so that when I noticed yesterday I was in a full-blown meltdown, I came home, it was a Saturday, Trent was home from work. He was like, Hol, I'm going to go do some things with our little girl. You go and decompress. And so the decompression time for me, I felt less guilt around, because it's like, no, I actually need this. Like, this isn't a nicety. This isn't a, oh, if I can, I should probably go do X, Y, Z. It's like, no, I need to decompress to be able to be the mum I need to be during the week for her. So then I lay in bed and I was feeling very foggy, inflamed, just yuck. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't doing it for me. I obviously need something else. So I did a Dr. Joe Medi. And that makes sense that they're really good for me. And they've always been regulating for me, because I turn off the lights. It's sound. So I respond well to the frequencies that he has in the background of his Medi. And I close my eyes and I drift off. And that Medi for me, it's the one I always do, the body parts one. It was around being too much. And I realized a lot of the wound that I'm carrying with this diagnosis is that I'm too much. And so what I was shifting in the Medi yesterday, which actually really helped, was I was shifting all the narratives around me being too sensitive, too loud, too, you know, taking up too much space. My too muchness used to play out when I was a kid. I didn't want to be perceived as too smart, very autistic. So I never put my hand up, even though I knew the right answer. And there's this thing that we do. I say we as autistics, because obviously it's my special interest right now, but where I play dumb. So if people are telling me something and I know what they're saying is actually factually incorrect, or that I just want them to feel good about themselves, I'll act like I don't know. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And in my head, I actually could say, well, actually, it means this. But I have just completely diminished that part of me for, I don't know, 20 years. I remember in primary school being like, don't put your hand up, don't be too smart, don't be too smart. So I went on this journey in the Medi around shifting the too muchness into magnetism, shifting the too muchness into radiance, shifting the too muchness into my gift, which is, I know I'm here to take up space. I know I'm here to use my gifts. I know I'm here to likely be smart and take what I know and condense it in the form of like this podcast to help more of you understand. And what made me feel really great was so many of you going, this is me. I've never felt more heard or seen in my life, because that is how I felt too. And if I can leave that with you guys, then that's amazing. And there is this part of me where it's like, oh, I'm afraid of the judgment and the criticism, because there is still this stigma in our generation. I don't think it's in Gen Z and like, is it alpha? I don't think they have it. I think this is much more common conversation points, but for millennial women especially, okay, I want to say eldest daughter, millennial women who grew up in a traumatic household, do you feel autistic? Because I feel like I'm speaking to you in particular. We've masked. It's what we were taught to do. We were taught to mask. And so a lot of it, the other spiral that I had was around, have I been masking exactly who I am my entire life? Because that's what I was thinking, where I was like, but I like who I am. And I'm actually living a really great life. Like, none of this has been a lie. I love what I do. I've been in a really good headspace. I love, like, my body is healed so much from trauma and so much from where I've been. I feel physically vital. Like, I'm in a really, really solid place. So that's when I started to spin out and go, wait, if I'm in this process of unmasking, like, because the ideal is knowing that when you mask, it's energetically taxing. And so it's a toll on your nervous system. So the less places you're masking, the more regulated you are in your nervous system. It's great that I know this, because I also understand that the nervous system is the foundation for everything you want to create in your life, right? And so I went on this spiral around, who even am I? Which actually is the first chapter of Saying Yes to You. Oh, just when you think the book has stopped working you, it comes around to the books one year and you go, okay, here we go. We're in the Fibonacci spiral. Um, but I was scared of, I like who I am, and am I going to be less of that? And what I've learned is no, no. There are situations where I'm exactly who I am. And on this podcast, that is one of those situations. I'm not masking here. You getting me? And this is why some weeks you'll get me emotional, some weeks you'll get me more bubbly, some weeks you'll get me on one, some weeks you'll get me really passionate. Like, this is me in my special interest, totally unmasked, doing exactly what I'm here to do. This is who I am. And that's where I was confused, because I'm like, have I just been living a lie my whole life? But say I booked, oh, great example, Wanderlust. When I went on tour with East Forest, I would have been 80 to 100% masking that whole time, except when I dropped into ceremony because I was channeling, right? So meeting all the new people, getting the photo for the Australian Financial Review with the founder of Wanderlust, uh, meeting with the founders of Loco Love, getting on stage, meeting East Forest, being in the green room with all of these people who are really successful, me running ceremony, getting up and needing to do my spiel before we drop in. All of that was masking, right? I was holding prolonged eye contact because I know that's socially what you're meant to do. I was not stimming, I was containing my emotion, whatever it was, I put on a front. I was performing, right? So that, and then getting back to, I don't know if you remember in the episode I did on the recap of Wanderlust, where at the Melbourne event, I got off the stage, I went straight back to the hotel, I got in the magnesium pool, I went to bed because I knew I'd be drained. Yeah, it's because I knew my nervous system, and it was that I was literally could have experienced a really big burnout because I was so high masking. Whereas if you're one of my closest people and you're on the couch with me here having a cacao and we're talking about life, like, I'm not masking. But that's to very, very few people. Like, I'm talking like a handful of close people. You like, whereas if I was running a workshop, this is why workshops train me. Remember when I did Heart Space Live in Sydney and then we went to lunch afterwards, and then I was like, come down city for like 3 days, and like, oh my God, that took a lot of energy. It's because I'm a projector. No, it's because I'm on the spectrum. And it was a lot of energy expenditure. And so it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy that, but it means if I'm going to do that again, I need like 3 days of decompression time. And that's not always possible when I have my little girl with me at home, right? Because decompression time involves me being alone. So this is what I'm learning. This is how this week has been for me. This weekend has been a weird one too. This eclipse has definitely lingered for me. I'm not surprised because of all the Virgo, obviously, but there's been a few things happen in like social circles this weekend that have been triggers for me. And so I think that's another reason why I've just spiraled. Um, and I've just needed to, there was something I could have gone to this afternoon, and in my head I was like, I'm going to wait till the day to see how I feel, and I need to do that more when it comes to anything social. I need to wait till the day of to see how I feel and not be apologetic for that. And I think that's something this diagnosis has given me, is permission to be unapologetic about my needs, knowing that they're not needs that everyone will understand, and that that's okay, because the people who do understand are the people that will stick around and stay and love me despite my differences. And they are differences. And this is definitely part of me that I need to unbecome, which is my fear of being perceived, of being different, the different one, the odd one out, the weirdo. I'm a Leo sun. I want everyone to love me. But I also am a Leo South node. I'm afraid when people don't love me. I'm also an Aquarius North node. I'm meant to be okay with people not getting me and not loving me. I am meant to be the weirdo. And I know that this has almost been pre-work for me stepping into my nodal return, which happens in July. I love that my special interest is astrology, can I just say? Because this is so special interest coded of me. But something else I did do when I received my report, and as I said, if you receive a report and a diagnosis, yours will be very different to me. Like, as I said, taste isn't a thing to me. I love food. Like, it's not a trigger for me unless it's really bad food, and then I get annoyed. Whereas my mum, very sensitive to taste. So you might have a higher taste profile, and so taste would be a regulator for you, right? For me, it's not. But what I did with the report is I put it into don't come at me. I put it into chat, and I asked chat to create off the back of the report a condensed version that's a checklist for Trent. And it spat out this incredibly concise checklist for Trent to reference. So when Holly is experiencing, you know what? I'm going to read it to you guys. I'm going to read it to you guys because I think maybe this will even give you guys some understanding. Here we go. When Holly is in shutdown or overload, a quick reference guide for Trent. What's actually happening? Shutdown is not moodiness, drama. This is something that I also need to decondition from, this belief I'm a drama queen. I said when I got uninvited from this wedding, I was told it's always a Holly show and I'm dramatic, and I cried a lot because I was so angry, and it was fucked. It was so fucked. Anyway, shutdown is not moodiness, drama, rejection, or lack of love. It is a nervous system in protection mode. Her brain has taken in too much sensory, emotional, or social input and is pulling the emergency brake. It's protective, not personal. So the early signs when someone like me is in a shutdown is I go quiet suddenly, I have a flat or clipped tone, I give less eye contact, nail picking increases. So I do this thing, if you can see on YouTube, it's like a kind of flick of my thumb. Yeah, I always do that, and I didn't realize I'm stimming when I do that. Looks tense or far away, struggles to answer simple questions, and small things feel disproportionately big. What helps immediately? Reduce input, lower the lights, lower volume, turn off background noise. Take my little girl into another room if possible. Use fewer words, like I've got this, go reset. Offer two simple options. Do you want 10 minutes or 30 minutes? Do you want to be in the bedroom or outside? That helps me with decision fatigue. Ask once and then follow my answer, and don't force conversation. Then the practical regulation tools. Now, these are the tools that are specific for me. If you were to go get a diagnosis, they might be similar. They also might be very different. So for me, weighted blanket, deep pressure helps my nervous system settle. So I actually, if you guys have recommendations on a good weighted blanket, I'm all ears. And it makes sense why in winter I love my hoodie. I'm always in it. Like it's just like it keeps me safe and contained. Anyway, noise cancelling headphones. I've seen those loop earplugs. I don't know if any of you use those, but I'm curious about your reviews on those. A familiar scent, so a smell anchor, which I'm using my vagus nerve one that I shared earlier in an earlier episode. Anytime I finish with a client before I go out to be in mum mode, I put the scent on, I smell, I take a minute, and then I reset. Anytime I feel particularly stressed, I smell it, I reset. Sunglasses. This is a fun fact for you guys. So I am not vision impaired. Well, I am. I have I'm short-sighted. So if you've seen me out in public and you've like smiled or waved, I've not seen you because I've never been able to wear contact lenses. I know now because I can't deal with the sensory. I couldn't even put them in. I hated them. So I just wear my glasses when I remember. But my sunglasses, if I'm going shopping, like to the grocery store, I will sometimes, if I'm extra stimulated, leave them on inside the shopping center. That's an autistic strategy. I didn't know, but I did it already. So sunglasses help with visual reduction. Firm hug if welcomed, in brackets, not light touch. Trent is a back scratch fiend. Every day I probably scratch his back like 3 to 5 times a day, to the point where our little girl now lifts up her shirt and goes back scratch. And so she gets back scratches too. If someone wants to back scratch me, I will cut you. Don't back scratch me. Give me a really, 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 really firm hug. I'm down for that. Like that is like, oh, so good. Darkened room and fan for white noise, water and a protein snack if she hasn't eaten, because this is another thing. When you're a neurodivergent and there are too many tabs open, we forget normal things. For me, I do something, this is very vulnerable, but I do something called toilet holding, and it's with we. Like if I need to pee, I'm just going to do all of the other things I need to do and check all of the lists off in my head before I go and wee. So like I hold my wee. And I didn't know that that was an autistic thing. So we can forget to drink, eat, go to the bathroom when we feel extra stimulated. So like those reminders are helpful when I'm in a shutdown. Legs up the wall. What makes it worse? Rapid questioning. So this is why, especially over the last week, if you've been in my DMs asking me questions, who's your doctor? What do you do? Blah, 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 it actually spins me out. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault. But this is just me sharing like those kind of questions. When I do a question box in my stories, that feels good because I only ever put them up when I have the energetic capacity to answer questions. But when I get questions just fired at me in my inbox, it actually dysregulates me. And now it's great to know that this is why. So that's something to just for us all to keep in mind. Because you don't actually know what someone's going through. And it is something that I know as having a somewhat public profile, people feel entitled to your wisdom, knowledge, and energy. I do feel I give a lot in terms of like on this podcast, in my readings, in containers where you can contact me. So it does feel energetically dysregulating when I will receive DMs firing off questions. And that's just me being fully transparent. I've always felt guilty for that, especially when I don't answer them. But now I know, okay, no, I don't actually need to feel obligated to someone asking things of me that are probably actually answered in one of my books or on the show, and that's not up to me. So yeah, rapid questioning dysregulates me and makes things worse. Logical debates, yeah, not unless I'm feeling it. Um, Anyone who takes it personally, because that actually makes me feel guilt around my needs. Trying to solve everything immediately because I don't need solutions, I just need space, basically. Surprising me with plans, I want to know the plan. And if the plan changes, give me as much notice so that I can wrap my head around the change of plans, something that incredibly dysregulates me. Yeah, I'm unfortunately not a spontaneous girly. Something else that came in the report for me is that one outing a day is enough for my system. And I always felt guilty around like I'll do an outing and it'll be in the morning. And that could be something with my little girl, that could be a play date, that could be a catch up, whatever it is. Or I'll be at home in the morning and go and have an appointment in the afternoon. But if I'm doing multiple in and out, in and out, in and out during the day, different if you've got ADHD, but for someone with autism, one a day for me is perfect. After the wave passes, once I come back, gentle curiosity helped. That looks intense. Anything that would help next time. Processing often happens 24 to 48 hours later. And the golden rule, if I ask for space, it's not rejection, it's maintenance. Helping early protects my energy, our relationship, and our family rhythm. So it's been really also helpful for us to know as a family, this is what I need when I feel too far gone. And Trent is a beautiful man. And I've said this time and time again. And I'm so lucky that I found him when I did 18 years ago, because I it makes me very uncomfortable to think what could have been if I didn't understand myself in the ways that I do now, or have a partner who's very understanding. That said, neurodivergent types tend to attract other neurodivergent types. So we have been having the chat around whether he is, I reckon he'd be more swinging toward ADHD. He doesn't stop, the man does not stop. And usually I have seen that autistic people and ADHD people make a very good match. So that feels pretty true for us without Trent having any sort of formal diagnosis. So I did put a question box up in the Solies group, and I had a couple of questions that came through. I just want to answer those while I'm here. Are there any things in particular you can do to support your nervous system as a neurodivergent person? Yes. So they were the things that I all spoke about today. But as I said, each neurodivergent person, whether you have ADHD, whether you have autism, whatever it is, dyslexia, hyperexia, it's hyperlexia, sorry, all of it is going to be very, very different and unique. So it's actually not enough for you to go, okay, this is what Holly's going to do. I'm going to go do it. Like, please don't do that. It might be a good starting point for sure. And like, read saying yes to you because it's everything's in there already. But if you want to have a tailored report, which is what I now have, that you can then have for yourself and then for your partner, then go and get diagnosed, go and get tested, go and receive that report because yours is going to be different to mine because our minds are so unique and different. And then the other question was, any advice for supporting transitions, like going from work mode or social mode into mum mode? Yeah, really good question. And it's, do you know what? The transition thing is, I didn't realize until recently, a really big thing for me. Trent and I actually had a conflict moment on Friday because Friday is when I have my reading in the morning. And so this Friday, Trent actually had a lot of work on this week and had to go back to his job after I was done. And so what happened was I did my reading 8 till 8:45. By 9 o'clock, he was out the door. And then I was in instant mum mode from my reading, which is, if you do the work I do, you know how incredibly energetically taxing it is anyway. But then it was straight to work. I was in solo mum mode. As you guys know, we don't have care, we don't have family around. It's just me and him. And then I took my little girl to swimming lessons. That's very dysregulating for me. The smell from the chlorine, the sound, my little girl who is like a triple Sag and just like swimming in the deep end, like, look at me, mom, and like going under. And I'm like, what the heck is happening? So then getting in back in the car, taking her out to get a little baby chino and having a play, getting back home. I had my lymph drainage. Trent needed, like we tag teamed. It was such a dysregulating day for me. And obviously amplified by the fact I'm now aware that transition times are very important for me. That when Trent got home, I ended up being late for my lymph drainage because I had to share with him, I couldn't not, that I can't function like that. And like a normal person might be able to go straight from work mode into mum mode, but it actually dysregulates me significantly and feels like I can't function. And then I had another meltdown. That was my Friday meltdown. That's what that was about. So I'm still learning about transition times. I think part of it is having the decompression buffer and that time. Like if I do X, then I must also have Y on the other side. And for me, it's white space on the other side of my readings. I'm also going to condense the time down. I don't need to do 45-minute readings. They can be 35 minutes. So I usually get all the intel I need in my readings at the 35-minute mark anyway. And I find myself stretching them out to make 45 minutes. So why would I not just condense the time to 35 minutes? Price point's the same, but everyone wins because then I have more decompression time on the other side. So it's actually benefits us all in the long run. Well, and by us, I mean me and my family. That's part of it, like really taking the decompression time as inclusive in work or social time. So if I'm catching up with a friend and then I'm coming home, rather than getting straight into mum mode, it could potentially me be going and sitting at the beach for like 10 minutes before I go home, and just getting that alone time in. The other thing though, but for me is scent is an anchor. So using scent to establish, okay, I'm getting out of the car into mum mode now, put the smell on, take some deep breaths and go in. It could be the shower, or it could be music. And this is why you guys, if you guys are fans of my high vibe playlist, pretty sure you're autistic. Like they're very old songs, but they've been the songs that I've played on loop my entire life, listening to the same songs, watching the same TV shows. This all creates some sense of regulation in our nervous systems. This is why autistic people have their favorite shows that they watch over and over again. Their comfort shows, have their favorite songs they listen to over and over again, their comfort songs. So Yeah, this is kind of what I'm playing with. And as you guys know, I am not an expert in this. I am a 3-5 self-projecting projector speaking out my lived experience, what I'm learning along the way. So thank you for giving me grace and being patient with me as I navigate this part of my life. I know this isn't necessarily the normal soul talk content, but I actually just can't really talk about anything else at this stage in my life because I'm just figuring out how to navigate my time, my space, my energy in this whole, it's like a whole new world for me. With that, you guys might remember I was talking about launching Dream Life Foundations. That's not gone anywhere, but from this recent diagnosis, I've realized, my God, I need so much more time and space to actually feel in my body after this. And so I'm giving myself March and April to actually get myself into a new rhythm of work. Like I'm running a ceremony next weekend, I'm running a ceremony the weekend after, I'm doing a ceremony tomorrow night, on top of all of the clients that I'm seeing, on top of being a full-time stay-at-home mum. It is a lot. And so where in that time am I getting my decompression? I'm actually not. And so I expect that while I move through March and it's quite full, I'll get to April and probably have a little bit of a burnout. This is what I'm preempting, knowing what I know about my nervous system. But come later in the, like, May we go to Fiji, and then when I get back, it feels like I'm going to have such an understanding of the nervous system in a whole new way. And that's 1 week of the Dream Life Foundations course, is we look at understanding your unique nervous system as the foundation to calling in the life of your dreams. So this feels very timely for me because I do know this year is going to be a big year for me work-wise. And thank you, thank you, thank you that I got this diagnosis now, so I can put the wheels in motion to then be catapulted into whatever's coming for me, especially when Jupiter moves into Leo mid-year and I start to take up more space, be seen more, do all these big, amazing things that I know I'm kind of magnetizing toward me, and have my nervous system in the background going, and I'm an extra sensitive type, and this is what I know I need. So it's actually pretty cool that I'm learning all this now because it's something that I will teach in Dream Life Foundation. So if you are keen, I've put the waitlist in the show notes. Put yourself on there if you haven't already, and updates will come through there once I feel ready. But for now, it's really just for me, taking decompression time where I need it, being a lot less social, and just reining in any unnecessary external output while I wrap my head around where to from here. I feel that I'm weathering this storm of anything that's been built up that wants to come out of me, which is why I'm having these regular meltdowns. And I think, in the coming month, they'll level out. And for now, I just need to give myself as much patience and grace as I possibly can. So that is kind of where you'll find me. But I'm always open for your questions either on this thread of the actual podcast itself or in the Soulies group. DMs are probably going to go missed, my loves. It's just capacity for me. Yeah, we didn't even get to talking about wedding anniversary, which is totally fine. I am grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you again for, yeah, just your love and support. And I'll be back in your ears on Wednesday.